Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm ZS Caravallo from ZK Research, and I'm joined today by Chris Wolf. Chris, you are the Global Head of AI and Advanced Services for VMware Cloud Foundation at Broadcom. Chris, before we get going, though, can we just have a quick intro on yourself?
Yeah, sure. I lead the AI and Advanced Services team in the Cloud Foundation division. We're responsible for the AI product strategy, the engineering support and delivery of those features. And some of this we do in partnership with some of the other engineering teams as well. And we've also been, from a research perspective, been driving a lot of the new AI service and feature development, including things like integrated product support within the core VCF platform.
All right. And before we talk VMware specific, let's talk about the market right now. It seems like at every event I go to and every person I talk to, there's a lot of chatter about generative AI. And what are you seeing in the market right now from the customers you talk to, and how are companies benefiting from Gen AI?
Yeah, it's a great question. The key is, you're right, there's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of, in some cases, trepidation. Folks are not sure about what their first use case should be. And at the same time, I think there's two schools. Like, hey, I want an AI win, so I'm doing AI for the sake of AI. That can be pretty dangerous because you're not measuring it properly. You may not be sure about the business value relative to the investments and things like that. And then there's other folks we work with that are taking a very surgical approach. Like your contact center use case is always a good one,
Yeah.
which is, I can measure the delta in terms of the number of closed tickets before and after the AI tool, and I can really start to measure the business value of the investment, right, relative to the efficiency gains that I'm seeing. So when you take the right approach, you looked at where you can leverage some of your own private data to really enhance AI models and derive value, you can get good success and get to fairly quick wins with not a very large investment.
Yeah, and I think the measuring part of it's difficult, and which I think is why the contact center has had so much use, because it's the one area of the business that's got metrics,
Yep.
metrics galore. So now I know as AI has become more commonplace, if you will, VMware has been using the term private AI. Now, is this a VMware created category, or do you think it's a market category?
I think it's a market category. We've seen press, we've seen other analyst firms, certainly customers asking for private AI. I think we went fairly big on it first in terms of really working hard to contextualize and define the market. But the term itself goes back at least 7 or 8 years. It wasn't invented by us. We don't want to claim ownership. And we really see this as it's an important approach to how you think about AI, where I'm balancing the gains of AI with the privacy and compliance needs of my organization. I'm able to move the AI model adjacent to wherever my data is. You can certainly do that in an on-premises data center or an edge site, but I can do this in a virtual private cloud at a hyperscaler. So there's lots of ways architecturally to solve the problem. But we think the concept is what really matters to customers, because they want to maintain control of their data. They don't want to lose control for the sake of AI. And these are just genuine concerns that we think this approach really can help to address.
Yeah, and I want to focus on one of the things you said, where you mentioned you could also run in a hyperscaler. So private AI doesn't only mean private cloud, correct?
Correct. Absolutely not.
Yeah. And so when it comes to Gen AI, there's companies seem to be in all kinds of different phases right now, some kicking the tires, a few companies in production. What do you see as the key challenges, though, in having customers adopt Gen AI more broadly?
Yeah, there's definitely, one of the challenges, as I mentioned before, is aligning on the correct use case. That's one. There's often a fear of choosing the wrong solution, which, we would agree with. And, our perspective, even for what we've done internally, is to take a platform approach. You don't have to feel like you have to get it right with an AI service, but if you invest in an AI platform that would allow you to pull and share your AI capacity, now, as new models or services come along, I can just onboard them via software, and that can make a big difference. But it's getting folks to understand, like, here's how to take that first step. And then there is a lot of education as well that has to happen here, because people don't think about generative AI as something that they can necessarily operate themselves. But in reality, the maturity that you already see of both open source and commercial solutions, and in many cases, the small number of GPUs you need to run some of these services, makes it very attainable, where you can start to see some really strong business value with a fairly small upfront investment.
All right. Well, given it's private AI then is a market category, the industry is likely to see many solutions that around private AI. So can you talk specifically about the Broadcom offering and your approach to private AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. For us, and you're right, like being able to start to run AI models adjacent to data, that's, conceptually, there's lots of ways I can solve that problem. And we're certainly seeing that with our customers. Now, for us in particular, where we start to shine is several areas. So first and foremost, like one of the end results that we're seeing on our platform is a dramatically lower total cost of ownership. We're seeing customers telling us that the cost savings with us is 3 to 5x that of comparable public AI services. And that's a big number, right? So that would be one area. And that's derived from a couple of things. First, we can offer a common set of tools and common set of processes for your AI and non-AI applications. So I'm not having to build up an entirely separate management stack or silo just to govern AI workloads, right? Could further drive up costs. Other areas that have been really important in terms of driving folks to us is really around automation and resource sharing. So tools like what's now going to be branded as VCF automation, was previously called ARIA automation, give you the capability to stand up a entire AI service stack in a matter of minutes. What we've heard from customers historically is that can take days to weeks, sometimes even months, to get some of these applications online, because it's not just connecting an app to a GPU, right? It's ensuring that the network is provisioned properly. You have the proper amount of data I/O, you have the proper amount of memory assigned. This is fairly complex, and something that we have, which is really one of our crown jewels, that we continue to iterate on and improve year after year, is our distributed resource scheduler. This is going back in terms of maturity, close to 20 years now. And when you think about the sophistication required to effectively place and load balance AI workloads with all of these various constraints, it's something we can do better than anyone. And to give you a customer example, there's a large retailer we've been working with. They've been public in terms of some of their own AI infrastructure that they've done. And what they've done recently in the last few months is they've come to us and said, hey, look, we cannot scale and manage AI infrastructure on bare metal effectively. There's a ton of waste we have, and what you give us out of the box is just far superior to what we've been trying to build over many years. And that's something that we hear quite a bit. So it's these areas. So again, if I back up, its center is around privacy and control, which I can get in lots of different ways. But what you're not going to get is the sophistication of automation and management that we have, the simplicity that we have with model governance, and again, the intelligence that we're bringing to resource scheduling and management. And again, not just bringing, we have a lot of that already, but that's just further maturing as well. That's where our technology lead is, and that's what's driving a lot of our early customers.
Yeah, and I think, to me, those are very typical of VMware products dating back to prior to the Broadcom acquisition, right? There's always been a focus on simplicity, always been a big focus on making sure the customers are successful. And I think, one of the areas of strength I think that VMware and Broadcom's always had is the ecosystem approach. And I know this has been a big part of private AI from VMware. So can you talk about the ecosystem? And I'd like you to drill down specifically on Nvidia as well, if you could.
Yeah, sure. So it's been really key. So, VMware historically has always been a company that's grounded in choice, right? You make a singular investment in a platform from us, and then you're free to swap out whatever hardware you need to as business needs evolve. Same thing with software up the stack. Same thing with choice of management and different tools that you want to bring around the stack. And that's definitely translated to AI as well, where we have a range of solutions that we offer. You look at the MLOps landscape, there's a myriad of different tools that are out there today, whether it's companies like Run AI, to give you an example, smaller companies like DCube that have also been on the path. You see some code assist companies that are moving up as well and seeing really good traction. These are folks like Codium and Tab9. And as I go beyond that, for us, I also did mention open source. So we have native integrations with our platform, with even the Hugging Face CLI, so that it's very easy for app devs and data scientists to pull down and manage and even govern any of these models that they're looking for. So you have all this choice, and then when you bring this together with us in NVIDIA, what you wind up with is the best of VMware. So it's Cloud Foundation giving you this really easy turnkey infrastructure as a service layer that can deliver all these AI services on your choice of hardware from whichever OEM provider you want. And then up the stack now, you're going to have your choice of Nvidia GPUs with the Nvidia AI Enterprise software. And now that's going to give you a whole rich set of capabilities. Like one example would be if a data scientist, or excuse me, in a lot of cases today, it's kind of honor system with AI. Like a data scientist is going to say, I need 4 GPUs for this, or I need 8 GPUs for this, right? And X amount of memory. That's not always the case, right? So being able to use like the virtual GPU construct allows your I&O teams to effectively map what the data scientist is asking for to what they really need. And that can start to give you a lot of savings where I can start to double up different applications on GPUs, fractionalize GPUs, and those types of things. And then if you go a little bit higher up the stack, NVIDIA announced inference microservices, or NIMs. And these are really good turnkey AI applications that can allow an organization to get really quick value. So, and for us, we can start with building that Kubernetes namespace, connecting to the NGC cloud, pulling in the latest NIMs, the latest AI frameworks, do all of this in an automated fashion, and get your app devs and data scientists up and running in a matter of minutes. So that's really the value of the full stack solution that you get with both companies working together.
Right. And I know there's been some recent news, both at the event, but you also had your latest version, VCF, that came out recently. So can you talk about what's new for customers and what's coming in the future?
Yeah, so really where we've gone on the new side is we have all this automation and guided deployment to make it really easy to stand up that private AI stack on top of Cloud Foundation. We also announced our model store. And this is really important because we see from customers, to do AI at enterprise scale, I need to effectively govern my AI models. I can't just let anyone download a model from Hugging Face or from the internet and put it into production, right? That can really wreak havoc on my infrastructure. So having tools that can allow you to carefully download a model, and for us, our model store uses the native CLIs of NVIDIA NGC, the Hugging Face CLI, or anything custom an organization already has. And so then I can approve those models. So I can scan them, approve them, decide what's in production, what's more research oriented, and allow folks to collaborate around those. Now, what's different about our approach, which I think is really important, is the early days of AI. What you saw for governance is all of these purpose-built AI governance tools, which we didn't think was the right approach, because when you look at AI models and AI services, they're all shipped as containers. So why do I need to build something purpose-built for container governance when there's great tools out there already? So what we did was we took the open source Harbor project and we extended it. So now a customer can use their existing enterprise container registry to continue to govern their containers or their models, right, in the same way that they're doing all of their other enterprise containers. So those are two of the, I think, the key features that we announced in 5.2.1. That's been GA now for at least a few weeks now, and we got a lot more on the way.
Yeah, and that's great. And in fact, that's certainly, the turnkey approach certainly makes your customers' lives easier. And I want to make sure I reiterate that. Now, you talked about contact center, as a use case, and I think there's some other, good use cases around IT and things like that. But for customers now that have started their deployments and maybe have it running a proof of concept, what recommendation do you give them to be able to scale that out into production? And then the other question I get a lot is around the value of GenAI. What's the ROI, things like that. I actually think personally it's the wrong question to ask. I think years from now we won't ask about should we do it, shouldn't we do it, because it'll be something just everybody does. But for now, what advice can you give customers to help them start and scale private AI, and then how do they demonstrate the value?
Yeah, I think the advice is first to start with take a platform approach. Like, don't feel that you have to pick the right solution today because next week you might have buyer's remorse. So the platform approach, like we provide, gives you an easy way to swap out models. So that's going to help. And then on that
Yeah.
first use
And actually
case,
the importance of the platform approach too is that just because you pick a model today doesn't mean it might be the best model for that use case tomorrow. And that's something customers have told me is the models change so fast that it's hard to
yeah.
keep up. Yeah.
Yeah, for a service we've been building for product support, we've changed the foundation model of that service 3 times in the last 9 months. And the agility of the platform is what allows us to do that.
Yeah.
Our data scientists can continually A/B test different models, see if we can get a more accurate response or better inference times, right? Lower memory overhead and these types of things. And once we find a better solution, it's very easy for us to go ahead and make that change.
All right. So platform approach is one. What else?
Yeah, so the next is really to get surgical. And for us, like I mentioned, like the customer support or contact center use case, but I think it's important to be even more specific. Like you're not just saying, I'm going to expose a chatbot to my customers. Like, don't do that because there can be reputation damage, right? There's a lot of things that can go wrong if you don't feel really strong about the solution initially, and you don't have to do that. So an easy way to de-risk that is start with the contact center in the back office. So have your internal employees work with the model so that you're not exposing anything to your customers, constituents, et cetera, and see how that's helping them to gain value, right? That's one area where you can start. Another area is like with the code assist use case. So with software development, like on my team, I'll give you an example. One of our engineers needed to rewrite an app in a different language. His initial time estimate was 4 months. Using a GenAI code assistant, he was able to rewrite the entire application in about 2 weeks. So and that is like, okay, that's really clear, right? Great business value. Another use case that you see a lot is with document search and summation. And you have to think about, where is it that I have multiple or gobs of documentation, right? So maybe thousands to tens of thousands of pages of documentation that I'm expecting humans to go through and find correlations, like really difficult to do. But there are use cases where that's also something that's significant. So to give you an example, with this, we have a customer that's a police department, and they're using this now for cold case investigations. So they have all of this private data that's from all of their case files that they store locally. Being able to bring in an AI service that can help them to start to find correlations that it would take a human months to years of like, really digging through all of these documents and taking notes and everything else to try to find some of these conclusions. These are things I can now do with generative AI in a very short period of time. So again, for these police departments, right, great value there as well. And that's really the key. It's focusing in on, where do I see the AI as a tool that can help to save the human a lot of time to get to a better decision. All of those things matter. So the platform approach being surgical, making sure you have the right measurements so that you can prove the business value. And then you can iterate from there. And also, learning this way is also going to help the IT organization because in most cases, people are in learn mode. They don't have like a whole bench of like data scientists and ML engineers at their disposal. People are having to learn a lot of these skills organically. So you start small with that use case that you can grow. You're helping to build a team up. You're understanding what your capacity needs are. And then you can start to move forward in a meaningful way. And you're going to find some use cases you're going to try, and you're going to be like, you know what, I don't see there's enough business value to justify the cost. And that's fine too, right? In some cases, Gen AI reminds me of blockchain, right? If you go back like 5 years ago, every database use case, somebody's like, well, that's a blockchain use case. It's like, no, you could just use a database for that. You're going to be fine.
Yeah. 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 And I think the one thing I liked about the examples you gave is that it was Gen AI as a tool, not a replacement for a person. I know there's a lot of trepidation about using Gen AI today. And the advice I've given is it's not Gen AI that's going to take your job, right? It's the person that uses AI that's going to take your job. And so I think getting on board with it now, certainly is going to save you a lot of time, but I think it's just the way we're going to work in the future.
Yeah,
And
that's a great way to put it.
yeah, and so an important question, I think, for your audience, the VMware customer base is there's the VMware customer base obviously is massive, right? So if I'm an existing VMware customer, how do I migrate to private AI? And also, how does this work with public cloud?
Yeah, so good questions. So there's a couple ways you can do this, and people ask that quite a bit. So we have a number of cloud provider partners that have good access to GPUs and can help you to run a deployment right on their infrastructure where you don't have to buy your own capacity to start to run generative AI. That's one approach that you can take. The other thing that you can start to look at is like I mentioned already, getting started. So getting onto VMware Cloud Foundation, it's really key. Like AI you can do it very efficiently, but if you're going to do it very efficiently, you really need to have your infrastructure as a service house in order. So to get all the benefits of automation that we have, moving to Cloud Foundation is going to allow you to get there pretty quickly. We have some great tools and services that can help customers to get there pretty quickly, and it's really key. It's like if you're going to try to if you want easy turnkey consumable AI, you want to be able to consume that as a service, and that's what we're working to provide to our customers. If you want to try to do a complete DIY for AI and piecemeal everything yourself, certainly you can do that, but it's not going to be more cost effective. It's going to cost you a lot more. You're going to have more reliability challenges. You're going to have more patch and upgrade challenges and things like that. So migrating into Cloud Foundation, building that really strong IaaS layer first, then layering the private AI capabilities on top of that. So that's all your templates, all your automation, lots of richness there, all of your GPU monitoring that we can do, effective load balancing. You're going to get all of that then with that solution. And then it comes down to just picking that first use case. We even have a summarize and chat application that we've open sourced to make that super easy for customers too. So with that, you can drag and drop a PDF into this web interface and start asking. It'll write a summary. You can start asking questions about it. You can get more details, things like that. So that's a fairly straightforward way where folks can also kick the tires.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm just curious, in the customer discussions that you've had, obviously, when I asked you about what you differentiated, you rattled off a bunch of things. When customers choose VMware Private AI Foundation, particularly with Nvidia, what are the reasons they give you? Is there a couple that are, you think it was the low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, for Private AI Foundation with Nvidia, the in terms of use cases, is that what you're asking?
Just why they're choosing VMware versus the other solutions out there?
Yeah, it really is it's first, it's our reputation, it's our reliability of our platform. They know that customers have, in many cases, 80% of their core business applications run on our platform. And it's been that way for decades now, right? So they just know that they're going to have a reliable infrastructure solution with us. That's key. They like the fact that they're going best of breed. Like if you're investing in an AI project, you want it to be successful. So the easiest way to de-risk it is to go with the best. And we're the best, especially when you're thinking about bringing AI to your business data. We see this a lot, and surprisingly, one of the biggest growth areas for us is public sector. Like, of course, in generative AI, it's the usual suspects like financial services that are early movers, but public sector has been a huge, attracted to private AI because of the fact that there is so much private and sensitive data where I really need to bring the models in to the data themselves. And when they start to look at the financials in terms of the amount of money that we can save them running these AI services locally, where they get all of the benefits of control and it's going to cost them a lot less, then it really, at that point, it becomes a no-brainer for those organizations to partner with us.
Yeah, and I've, it's interesting when AI first, kind of came about as a trend. There was lots of use of public, cloud services, and not, although private AI works with both, but there has been a much stronger focus on making sure your data is private. I think with data being such an important piece of it, it has created almost a renewed focus on being able to create these private services versus running in shared environments. And that's been an interesting trend to watch. So just one last question for you, and this should be an easy one. For people that want to learn more about VMware Private AI Foundation, about VMware Private AI, where do they go?
Yeah, they can just go to vmware.com/AIML. That'll start to show you all of our solutions and give you some next steps to get started, and we'd love to hear from them.
Yeah, all right. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention, if you haven't seen it, we announced work we've been doing jointly with Microsoft to bring the Azure AI Video Indexer now on premises so that customers can run that on our platform as well, which is pretty exciting. I think it really kind of shows the industry validation of the private AI use case, where you see, Microsoft and Azure, certainly one of the bigger names in AI today, saying, we have all of these use cases where customers have private data on premises, Even you think about private videos where they want to add like localization type of content to it so that I can build training even for other regions. Well, now this us working together with Microsoft is going to make that super easy. I think one of the other great things about this service is by default, it's using CPUs instead of GPUs. So if you have some of your VMware clusters and you have some spare CPU capacity, you want to kick the tires on an easy first AI use case, this is just a great way to do it, just to get you started, start to show some value, and you can build on it from there.
Yeah, what I like about that approach, and with this recent news certainly adds to it, is just this concept of choice, right? All customers have different needs and requirements. Some are going to choose one platform, some will choose another. You know, some will choose this model versus that model. And I think the way you've built your VMware Private AI is it gives customers that optionality, because what they're using today may not be what they want to use tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Chris. Well, on that note, then I'll wrap up. So on behalf of Chris Wolf from VMware by Broadcom, I'm ZS Caravello from ZK Research, and thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on my next episode of ZKast. Thanks, Chris.